John Felt here, and this is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Weather Briefing, September 22nd, 2019. September should be a quiet time of the year, especially late September into October. Lots going on, though. We have very active Atlantic tropical weather. We have very busy Pacific tropical systems. We have in the middle part of the U.S. heavy rainfall. We have strong temperature anomalies. The west is going to be unusually cold with even some snow. Southeast U.S. unusually hot. So a lot to talk about across the nation, so let's get started. Well, precipitation over the last week was confined to Imelda as it moved inland, some heavy precipitation over the upper Midwest, and some heavy precipitation over the Pacific Northwest with some onshore flow from the Pacific along the immediate coast. Everywhere else, not much at all. Now, right now, dew points are very high over the middle part of the nation. Look at this here, 77. You can really see where that moisture is sort of sitting here from that heavy rain. But that moisture is sort of pushing in here, pushing inland. And what we have here is it's been pulled up a bit into the middle part of the nation, and that's where the heaviest rain is. Now, look how dry it is over the west, and it's actually fairly dry over this area as well compared to normal. So really, just in this very narrow little corridor here is where we have the dew points necessary for that heavy rain. But Imelda certainly gave historic rainfall amounts up to 40 inches in spots near Houston, primarily to the north of Houston, and then along the coastal region south of Houston. Very heavy rain, historic flooding, and record rainfall amounts due to that. And again, it always reminds me of even unnamed systems. Even if this wouldn't have been a named system, a tropical storm, look at what you can get when this push of tropical moisture moves inland. Temperatures over the last week, generally above normal, sort of bookends. West Coast a little bit below normal, Northeast a little bit below normal. Everywhere else, as indicated in orange and red, above normal. So we do have some vulnerabilities due to soil moisture, and I'm going to be talking about that a bit more this week, especially in regards to drought. But what we have here is we have unusually wet soils over the northern tier of the U.S. and north central U.S., and we have very dry soils over the southeast and mid-Atlantic, over parts of the south central and southwest U.S. Now keep this in mind, I'm going to be talking about this area in just a moment. Now, as far as the tropics go, the Atlantic has a number of systems. The Gulf of Mexico is pretty quiet right now, not much going on, so it looks like that's going to be quiet. And if you remember from climatology, systems tend to move in from long distances out at this time, through the main development region, not so much close in. But none of these systems here right now pose an impact to the mainland U.S. Now, there is a system, Lorena, that's moving in off the Pacific, and that could bring some heavy rain into parts of Arizona. And when you get this tropical rain from post-tropical cyclones moving in, you could get the risk of some flash flooding in Arizona. So keep that in mind as we get into this week as well. Now, if it does move in, look how dry it's been in this area. So some of that would be of benefit, but on the other hand, dry soils just can't really absorb that much rain that fast. So there's also that flash flood risk. But rivers are running very strong anomalies for rivers. We see a lot of red, which is below normal, especially over the southeast and the northeast U.S. We see large areas of above normal over the north central U.S. and also parts of the west coast of the U.S. And we do have some river stages in minor, which is orange, or moderate, which is red, flood stage on the Missouri and on parts of the upper Mississippi. Now, the rainfall south of this area has been much lighter. So as this water comes down, it's going to be attenuating, and likewise coming the Mississippi, it's going to attenuate as it goes further down. So I think the impact with flood stages are going to be pretty much just in this area. And there's a little bit of a benefit to this as well. This time of year, flows are usually pretty low. The Ohio's running very low, lower Mississippi's low. So this is going to sustain flows for river transportation further downstream. So there is a little bit of a benefit to get these flood flows, but I'm sure if you're in the areas with especially these purple, which is major, and red, locations here, which is moderate, you have a flood fight going on. So certainly a benefit and certainly a negative impact as well. Okay, so right now we have a couple features that we're going to be looking at. I want to point out this ridge of high pressure right here. This is really going to dominate our weather for the next 2 weeks. It could play a very key role. This little system here is going to be passing through, and then we're going to have another stronger system developing in the west. So between this system here and this ridge of high pressure, those are the two that are going to be impacting our weather. And you can see that real clear here. The next 14 days, this ridge of high pressure just sort of sits over the southeast or the south central U.S. And then look at this blue here. This trough digs over the west. And what we're going to have is we're going to have very strong temperature contrast. Red being well above normal, and I even see some temperatures 10 degrees or more above normal over the Midwest. And then over the western U.S., especially the Pacific Northwest, I see anomalies 10 to 15 degrees below normal. So very strong temperature anomalies over the next 2 weeks, the end of September into early October. Now, precipitation is going to be fairly quiet. I just want to bring a couple things to your attention here. Areas that are very dry are going to continue to be very dry, so that's going to increase drought impacts. We have some very heavy rain in this area. That's going to keep rivers and tributaries running high. Pacific Northwest, some onshore flow, some heavy pockets of precipitation, but very scattered. And actually, as that colder air filters in, even a chance of some snow, especially at higher elevations. And here's the tropical moisture moving into Arizona with a flash flood threat due to that tropical rainfall. Okay, so let's go into the extended here and see what it shows us. And we really see this strong pattern right through 14 days. Cool west, warm elsewhere. And look how broad this above normal temperature area is. As far as precipitation, really sort of the northern tier of the U.S. and the western U.S., northwest U.S., above normal precipitation, and the eastern U.S. below normal. So we have a number of risks here, weather risks, hazard assessment here. We have flash flood and flood warnings. These are main stem rivers that I've talked about running quite high, and unusually hot or heavy rain in the Arizona area. So that's pretty much this week's briefing. Still a lot to go to look at here. We have just about all sorts of impacts from heavy rain, and probably be talking about snow. We have river flooding, we have flash flooding, and we have unusual degrees of heat and below normal temperatures. So that's this week's briefing. Hope you have a great week. Take care.